came to Hungary in mid-September, and my original aim was to report on efforts that were being made to desegregate the public schools. Roma students have long been segregated in substandard schools and classrooms throughout Central and Eastern Europe. In recent years, Roma rights groups have won several court cases, demanding the closure of these segregated institutions and the integration of Roma students into mainstream facilities. But so far, implementing those changes has been an uphill battle. My plan was to spend some time in Budapest, speaking with the NGOs that were working on this issue and that were working with Roma communities in general, and then to travel as much as possible into the Roma settlements to see what I could see firsthand. And for the most part, that's what I did. I visited NGO offices in the capital city and then settlements in the surrounding countryside, a couple of them several times over, and I talked with as many people as I could. But it became clear very quickly that school segregation was just one of many problems the Hungarian Roma were facing. For example, in one settlement, just 30 kilometers outside of Budapest, people were worried about gathering enough firewood for the coming winter. They used to be able to gather it from the surrounding forests, they said, but now those forests were being protected by armed guards. In another settlement, families were still recovering from a wave of neo-Nazi attacks that had made headlines back in 2011. 3 years had passed, and children were still wetting their beds and having nightmares. And in another settlement still, mothers who had to manage households and raise children without indoor plumbing or reliable electricity or even much money were trying to figure out how to launch their own volunteer program so that they could improve the image their non-Roma neighbors had of them. School segregation was an issue in almost every settlement I visited, but so was unemployment and a lack of basic utilities and harassment by the local police. The coming election seemed to have only complicated matters. In one city, all of the Roma settlements were being threatened with mass evictions based on a mayoral campaign built around a promise to, quote, eliminate the ghettos. And in Budapest, some of the NGOs that were helping communities address these issues were being targeted by the federal government. Just a few days before I arrived, some NGO offices had been raided and some computers had been confiscated. The government claimed to be investigating a potential misappropriation of funds, but the NGOs themselves were sure that the true aim was something much darker. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán had just declared to the European Parliament that he was done with, quote, liberal democracy. He had also talked openly about requiring certain NGOs to register as foreign agents. By the time I left, several of the organizations that I had met with had had their tax numbers suspended, and it was an open question whether or not they would be able to continue their work. And so my story expanded, from segregated schools to mass evictions and the plight of civil society. And it expanded a bit further from there, because there were bright spots too. In fact, at every turn, it seemed, there were Hungarian Roma who had somehow managed to integrate. They had obtained secondary educations and found decent jobs and homes, and at least some of them were working tirelessly towards systemic change and towards helping other Roma achieve the same dreams.